Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Wong, and today we're going to dive into the jungle that is generative AI. Is it a superpower for small teams, or is it just a fire hose of nonsense that actually makes our lives harder? Joining me today, we have Brent Chudoba, CEO of Biteable, Tommy Fotak, CTO of Biteable, and our Chief Wordsmith Officer, Leah, who is currently training for a head-to-head battle with ChatGPT. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, AI is everywhere. It's writing emails, it's designing logos, generating code, and maybe even this intro. But for small teams, does AI actually help you work smarter, or does it just flood you with more mediocre content to clean up? So today we're asking the question, is AI a cheat code, or is it just chaos? So to start, let's give the viewers some context, if they're not familiar with Biteable. We are a startup with less than 20 people. We've worked with each other for years, either here at Biteable or other startups. We're trying to make it easy for anyone to create a video, whether it's promoting their business, creating an explainer, or developing in-house training curriculum for their LMS. We're also trying to do more with less, which is where AI comes in. So maybe we'll start with you, Brent. As it relates to you and your function, maybe how you think about AI, what's your opinion on it? And how has it changed over time?
So, thanks for getting us started, Mike. As Mike mentioned, I'm CEO at Biteable and have a background at software companies and in private equity, and so I've kind of looked at technology and software from a lot of different angles. What I would say to your specific question, I remember being on a run, listening to a podcast, the All In podcast, as they were talking about the magic of, I think, GPT-3 or GPT 3.5. And I had begun exploring this. And I want to say this was like December 2022. And from day one, to me as a business generalist, it seemed obvious how powerful it was, that it could just answer specific questions quickly. So it was immediately solving problems that I had that Google search would take 2 to 3 clicks and finding a reputable source to do. And so I'd say for a generalist, at no point has it ever felt like hype or a waste of time. It was, how do you use it and what are the things you could do? I'm, for a sort of business oriented person, very, technical and product focused. And so the fact that it can help me get a step closer to engineers in how to converse and understand different types of technology and make sure that I'm can understand whether it's acronyms or different types of databases and all that kind of stuff, it's been incredible. So I think it's from like speeding up the learning curve, learning how to do some coding or just understand what tools to use and how, it's been amazing. And I guess the one thing I was thinking before this podcast was similar to, I remember my kids asking, like, I have, a few kids, and they asked, what did I do when I hung out with my friends growing up? And just thinking like, oh, well, you'd get a call on the house phone and like take the thing with the cord that like ran all the way around to the other room. But there was like one phone, maybe 2 lines, but they had to call you to go meet up. And then I had a cell phone when I was in high school that was like the family cell phone. And you took it to like call if there was a problem, not to check in with your friends because your friends didn't have cell phones. And I was just thinking like that is so foreign to them of how you would ever communicate with people. And so, and I think of that with ChatGPT, LLMs, and all these tools, like how on earth are you, even today, I'm like, how would I get this information? I have to actually like go through the Google results, or if there's just a simple question that I want an answer to quickly, like just thinking of all the steps. And as you fast forward 5-10 years, it's going to feel absolutely crazy to have not have had some of these tools that are available today.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that because like I do think, my kids are older than yours, but I imagine I've run into that before where they're like, how did you meet people? I'm like, oh, you just said you did the tennis court. And if you missed them by 15 minutes, you were out. Like you just missed it. You didn't know where they went. You couldn't get a hold of them. And so it'll be interesting to see like if people like how did you search for something before? You actually had to like look at the results. I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably realistic.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking it was actually one of the most enjoyable parts of college, but I was a political science major, took a lot of seminars where all your grade was based on one or two papers. And before the sort of finals or the final papers due, it's like, yeah, you went to the library. And I did a bunch of work at the library, and then I'd bring home stacks of books into my room and have to sort of read through them, bookmark stuff, find places I was going to cite and all that kind of stuff, which just seems, I'm sure there's pieces of that today, but it seems absolutely foreign as you look forward of like lugging things around, and the library becomes a place where you can do quiet work and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that it's like you needed to actually go in the stacks and get materials out and lug them back to your room seems like a crazy thing in the future.
Awesome. Tommy, what's your take on it? Have you been pro AI from the jump, or have you like evolved your opinion on it? Anti, for, against? Where do you stand?
My opinion is constantly evolving. I'm not as bullish on some elements of AI as others. I don't know how we're going to go with AGI, but the latest, as an example of that, the latest Tesla auto-driving cars have come a long way in 8 months compared to others. I think it comes down to like a big fat case of depends. At the end of the day, it's a hive mind, and it depends on the strength of the hive in terms of the information that's going to come out of there and how accurate it is. And then it also depends on your position versus the hive. Do you agree with what's coming out versus not agree? So I find a lot of people really like it in fields where they're not experts versus a field where they are an expert, because they can see the difference. I saw, it was years ago now, but I saw a really good kind of comment about an article in the news media. And this person was like, if they can get this wrong, which is a field that they're an expert in, how wrong are they in areas that I'm not an expert in, that I'm trusting them in? And that's kind of like where I sit with it. So I will admit I use it. For me, I treat it as a junior co-worker, or for some things, I treat it as like an expert in an area that I'm not very familiar with to get me started. And I'll take it starting level and then go and do some other searching or research or whatever. But that gets me over a hump if I'm stuck. So yeah, my position's complicated, like all my relationships, and it's constantly evolving.
We'll come back to the relationships later, your other ones, but we'll try to save a pin for that for a special segment of the show. Excuse me, Leah. I imagine, as our chief copywriter and wordsmith, in talking to other folks, where it's like, oh, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, wrote my essay. Right, you see the stories like that in the news all the time about how college students are using it. I'm curious what your take is on it, and how your opinion either is today or how it's evolved.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with what Tommy said. I think of it as like my annoying intern. Like, it's better than nothing, but it irritates me no end, because as someone, like, I can see the benefits of it for sure for someone who's maybe not a very strong writer. But as someone who writes for a living, I don't live, laugh, love what it comes out with, like, most of the time. Like, it's very enthusiastic, but it just doesn't quite get it. I've always been sort of suspicious. Obviously, it came for writing and copywriting very quickly in terms of right out of the gate, people were using it for that kind of a thing. So obviously, like, always had my hackles up a little bit in terms of it's coming from my job, but I feel a little bit safer in it now, having used it, because we do use it in the marketing team. We're a really small team, and we sort of use it to supplement that. We mostly use it for like content marketing more than copywriting, like blog posts, things that are sort of formulaic or more monotonous. It works better that way than any sort of creativity. I don't find it to be that good for purposeful creative writing, but it's a good tool to have. It certainly has helped us create more content and increase our output, and it's getting better for sure than it was. Tommy, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I reckon they're safer than we are as programmers or developers, to be honest, when it comes to AI, because it's not intelligent. It's an inference machine. It doesn't necessarily get nuance. So while it gets someone like me 80% of the way, or maybe more, somewhere with creative writing, as an example, that last 20% I can't necessarily do or bring out, whereas someone like yourself can. Simon once put it best with, when it comes to visuals of creative stuff, that you don't know what the difference is, but you can feel it. And I think with good writing, that's the case. But with code, if it runs, it's fine, essentially, right? Even though if you look underneath it, people like me have strong opinions on how to do things there. But at the end of the day, like if it compiles and it runs and it does what the person wants on their computer, that's fine. It doesn't need to evoke feeling. So I think, yeah, it coming for the creatives, that was just a red herring. It was really coming for my type originally.
I think that's interesting. And Leah, I think from your perspective, I don't know, what do you think about like when you're doing creative writing and you're staring at a blank screen, right? Just the cursor blinking, does that invoke more anxiety, or is that more of like the challenge, or is it like, hey, you put a prompt into AI and you get something back and it just gets you started, right? So you can react to it and evolve it and make it better.
I think it very much depends on the type of writing. I don't think creative writing, you would find many people who would want to start from ChatGPT or anything like that. Sort of copywriting, sure. Content writing, sure. But yeah, I don't think people are using it creatively to get started. But I could be wrong. I wouldn't.
I think,
anyway.
Yeah. Well, not for business purposes maybe, but I suspect there's a lot of like posts on Reddit where it's all AI written stories, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I was very bullish on it from the beginning. A little skeptical to start using it, but very bullish on the possibilities. I also would get a lot of that content where like you could just tell it was AI written and just it wasn't very good. But for me, I think if you're not using it to some degree, you're just falling behind. And I think if you're only using ChatGPT, for example, you've fallen behind because there are so many other models out there that you could be playing with, and all of them seem to be very, better than others in different areas. But I guess that leads me to my next question, which is I'd love to hear about some of your best and worst moments with AI. Maybe we'll go reverse order. Leah, do you have a best or worst moment you want to share with the group?
It's not that exciting, but what came to mind is that I've had one of the most irritating conversations of my entire life with ChatGPT right at the start, where we were doing a lot of blog posts to sort of see how it would do generating that kind of stuff for us. And I had to be like, I am begging you to stop starting every blog post within today's modern world, in today's digital landscape. Like, I am begging you to stop. It's not even a good introduction for starters. Like, you don't need to set the scene. We know where we are. It's okay. And I said, please, don't do that. And it was like, no problems, heard, seen, understood. Like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I actually think you're going to really love what I'm cooking up here if I could show you. And I was like, please, blow me away. And it was like, in today's modern world, and I said, I'm going to stop you right there because something's gone awry. Something's gone amiss.
Stop button.
In the second since we've last spoken, our wires have been crossed. And it was like, I'm so sorry, that's so embarrassing. Like, let me try again. And I said, please, like, don't worry. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has those days. Like, go for it. And it was like, in today, and I said, I can't do this. Like, please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. And it just kept going. It did not understand what was happening. And like at that point, I had already accepted I was going to be writing the introduction. It wasn't even about that anymore. It was like I was getting gaslit by ChatGPT. Just absolutely going over its head, ships in the night. And still to this day, it starts every blog post within today's modern world. I can't take that from it. And I did try.
It can do the most complicated things. And yet it will get in this recursive error cycle where it just can't follow like one simple instruction. It's crazy. It's still, I mean, you see it with code all the time.
Yeah.
If you're trying to fix something and it just keeps doing the same thing, like, please, I'm begging you, like,
That's what I was
don't
losing
try
my
this
mind.
again.
So as Leah said, like, we use it for some of our blog articles, right? And I have a prompt that says, do not use phrases or introductions like in today's modern world or in today's digital era, right? And it will still do it, even though I'm explicit about it.
Loves it. Loves it.
Yeah.
And it's bad. It's not even a good introduction. Can I just put that out there for everyone in the world? Stop using it.
It sounds like AI is that in its evolution, it's in its teenage years where it's really just not listening.
It's acting out.
Yeah,
Sure. It's not listening.
We ask questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So, we're only 2 weeks away from that improving at the speed that it's going at. So
Yeah.
it should be fine.
How about you, Tommy? You have a best and worst in AI?
Yeah, I do. So, which do you want first? Let's go best. Let's be positive.
Let's go best. Let's start with best.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Claude in terms of models, or Sonnet. I tend to go to that more often than others. In terms of the best outcomes I've had, it's been doing manual-ish labour stuff for me. So I was looking at a trip to Portugal last year, and I asked it to put together a 5-day itinerary for me in Portugal. And what came out, and then I got a thing out, and then through a conversation we managed to refine that. I was like, are there any areas I should be unaware of, and so forth. What I didn't do was fact check it, because in the end that trip fell through. But initially that first sort of setup gave me something to think about. It would search accommodation for me, it would look up flights and things like that. So I had a nice little subset of information that I could then take away and refine if I wanted. So that pleased me. Another was like a menu for the week. I was like, I've got these supplies in my cupboard. Can you put together a grocery shopping list for me? It was very US centric, so I had to kind of let it know that I lived in a little island at the bottom of Australia, and what season it was. But that was pretty interesting as well. And then the last one was a friend of mine needed some bank statements parsed and so forth. And I said, just send me the PDFs. And I just said to Claude, strip all this out into CSVs, please. And it did. And I was like, and then I had to go up to my friend. I was like, you realise your bank lets you download CSVs, but you can use Claude. Here you go. So stuff like that. And also asking it to, I like data or data, depending on what country you're from. And I like sport. So I really like sports data. And you can get it to Claude again to parse a site and strip out the sports data into CSVs for you, which I get it to do a fair bit. Whereas DeepSeek, when I give it that instruction, it writes me a script and explains the script to me about how it's doing it. I'm like, I know how to do that. I could have done that myself. I want you to do it. So that's sort of the best, is getting it to do these sort of manual-ish tasks. The worst was a generative thing. I have a joke name with a friend because of the way that I type. I don't touch type. But I type really fast and make a lot of mistakes, so I have to type at triple the speed to correct my mistakes and get where I want to be. So I'm known as Furious Fingers Fotak, and I went to it to make a movie poster, and it was like Fast and Furious 12, more fingers, more furious. And it gave Vin Diesel, it's a great picture, by the way, but Vin Diesel has, or the Vin Diesel lookalike, allegedly, has 12 fingers. I sent it to my friends and they're like, why does he have 12 fingers? And I was like, well, clearly it read more fingers, more furious. And I was like, well, this is what I'm going to make. And when you notice it, you can't unsee it, but the poster is otherwise great. But it kind of, as a result of the extra fingers, it fell flat. But that was interesting to me.
I may need to see this poster, Tommy.
I'll drop it in
And
Slack.
now we have a new nickname for you. Brent, best and worst.
One question, Tommy. If you're not touch typing, what do? You just kind of you go after it. It's like it's a seasoned hunt and peck operation.
I use multiple fingers, but it's not technically touch typing because I don't use I don't use my ring finger very often. I use my pinky finger. But the biggest issue I have is I'm never on the home keys. So the finger that you're meant to use for a particular key, I'm not really using. And the issue happens when I get a different keyboard or I just shift my hands ever so slightly. I get what we call in our profession off by one error. So every key is off by one from where my brain thinks I am.
Yeah.
So
so you kind of got your own method of how you do things.
Do you have a split keyboard, or is it like an ergonomic, or just a straight up keyboard?
Look, I'm lo-fi. It's just a flat square keyboard, right? Like I don't sit still enough to get RSI. I don't hold my fingers on the home keys, so it's not like I'm still for too long with those either. So I don't need any of that fancy ergonomic stuff because I'm not good enough to get the problems that people get by being good. So it's a blessing and a curse.
Okay, my best and worst. I'm going to go with the worst first to get it out of the way. I use Replit a ton, like 2 to 5 hours a day, lots of weekend project stuff, and it's become something that was very empowering where I could build a little mini app that did something cool to I could, use Stripe's API to create invoice reports that did things that their system doesn't do to augment what we're doing, remove manual processes, to building, I have Grasshopper Sign Up, which is a form app for people because I really disliked the tools that the schools that my kids go to were using for collecting forms. So just built something that I thought was a better product. And so it's like a full application. So I've kind of gone up and down, used these tools, but I don't really write any code. I can review it. I don't use the agent ever. I use assistants, which is mostly generating lines of code or files for you that then you're reviewing. And you kind of, in that sense, you really have to understand the pieces a lot better. You need to pick a language that you actually can make sense of, databases and tools. What I find and so I'm mostly in Replit when I'm doing any coding, it kind of like what Leah said. It's insane how repetitive the mistakes will be. And Replit uses Claude as its main coding engine, as the default AI engine almost in all situations. It's just like when you don't understand something deeply and you're asking for help with coding and it's repeating things, it can take several cycles where you're like, oh wait, it doesn't have any idea what it's doing. Like it's missing the mark here. How do I get it out of this? And if it's something really complicated, and for me, it's stuff in JavaScript, it's stuff in other areas where like I'm just banging my head against the wall. And especially if you have long QA paths to get to the problem area that you're trying to fix, and you're like, okay, like it's like, oh, I see the problem. Let me go in and fix that. Like here are 2 updates. Like here's what was happening. Like we made this change. Now it'll work fine. You're like, okay, you kind of look, you push the files up, redeploy, or like replay your dev environment, and then you kind of go in, you're QAing the path, and then like you get through all these steps, and you're like, this is the exact same thing. We've done this 15 times now. That is unbelievably frustrating. So I'd say that's like the worst moments is when you're early. If you can catch it early, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, like they're not going to do well here. Like we need to find a different path around this, or I need to understand this concept a bit more. So that's the worst, and it hopefully happens to people less and less once they kind of can see the signs of it happening and they can kind of figure out a way around it. The best, I'd say 2 things, two best experiences. The first is when you have any kind of app, be it small, big, and you go in because you want to add a new feature or some new functionality, and you may have an inkling that it's really tricky or complicated, and you're thinking about doing it a certain way and think like, okay, this is going to, be 30 minutes of work and some QA on stuff. And you do a really good job explaining what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, the parts of your website or application it's going to touch, and you get back a response that's like, oh, well, great. Like you're already set up to handle that. Like I've made 2 updates in lines of code. And I think I see this with our developers at Biteable too, when you kind of get lucky on a feature and they realize like, actually, we were pretty well prepared for that. That's a 1-line change to fix this problem or add this functionality. And like when you hit it with the AI stuff too, you're like, and then you just sort of like, you describe something well, it comes back, you're kind of like click apply, or you see what happened and you're like, no way that just worked that well. And the good thing is it's got the context of the code and all that kind of stuff. And so having a feature built in like a matter of seconds is awesome. The other thing I'd say at Biteable, there are customers in certain plans can upload their own fonts. So if you have some custom font that you've created or something that's not a Google font, we support uploading fonts. The way to get fonts is you provide font files to us. We put those font files into our system and then attach them to customer accounts. When we do that, we take actual font files and then we put them in a system that then generates a CSS file so that they sort of the weights display in the correct order and all that stuff. And then the actual font files to go fetch to apply to text. I've been doing that for like 2 or 3 years. Like any font stuff that comes in, I upload. It's a pretty easy system. We have an admin tool that does it, but it's still like you got to look at it. You've got to convert the files because they might come in different formats. Make sure you get the CSS generated correctly. And font files can be messy where you have to clean up a bunch of stuff in the CSS. And so I did not understand CSS particularly well and was like uploading these things and then started to learn like, oh, okay, like I need the fonts to be in order. And so it's sort of like if you have light, normal, medium, bold, all this stuff. Some fonts have tons of, there's up to like 9 font weights and italics. And so you could potentially have 18 different things in a CSS file. And they're never in order when you convert stuff. And so reordering them in a text file sucks, especially if you're doing a bunch of fonts at once. Yeah. So there's this sort of magical thing once when I was like, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT can figure this out. So just like, I get an export, it's got like 18 fonts. I'm like, oh God, I have to go reorder all these. Just copy it, paste it, and like reorder by weight. It's like boom, 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 boom. Like, oh my God, why have I been doing this by myself for the last 2 years? And then it's sort of like copy, paste, upload, done. It's like, okay, now let's build a font tool. Let's build a font tool that does this automatically. So those are the things where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like this process that I can just remove either one little step from or just the whole thing is going to be gone the more you chip away at it. So that's sort of the magical moment I've had.
The thing for me, like, similar to your Replit experience, I use Vercel for some just little side fun projects that I'm doing. And I'll put a link in the show notes, but there's like a Instagram video of a teacher asking the kids to give her instructions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And she follows them literally, right? And so she ends up using her hand to get the peanut butter out, and she wipes on the top of the wrapper of the bread and just take the bread out. And they're like, no. She's like, well, that's what you said, right? And I'm like, yeah. Like I got really confused and frustrated with Vercel. It was a me problem. It wasn't them, or v0.dev. And I'm like, oh wait, I didn't tell it to be responsive, right? I wasn't clear. I didn't tell it to stop using placeholder data. I didn't tell it I wanted to have a database on the back end. I thought it was all implied. And so it's really taught me to do is like, I have to be very explicit about what I want the outcome to be. And, something I would have done years ago in a product manager role writing specs, but I've gotten out of that habit and I'm just like, oh, well, doesn't everyone know how to do that, right? And Tommy, you're probably having a flashback or maybe some PTSD of like some product manager asking you for some feature, and you're like, "That's exactly what you asked for." And they're like, but maybe you're not. I don't know. But for me, the best moment was when we were trying to get several hundred blog posts and create social media posts for them. So one for LinkedIn, one for Facebook, one for Instagram, one for Twitter. And I'm like, this is like, we have to write 400 pieces of copy. This is going to be a nightmare. But as Leah can attest, I love a good spreadsheet and I love to automate things. And so I used make.com to go and look at all of the content out of a spreadsheet, ingest it, pass the URL of the blog article into ChatGPT or Perplexity, read the article, summarize it, and then customize the output for each platform, because each platform is a little bit different. And then it put it back into the spreadsheet so that Leah could review it. And it was, she talked before about, these mundane tasks that you don't want to do. Nobody wants to go read 100 blog articles and summarize them, right? And so, but if she can quickly scan, some short copy for social media, it's just a way better use of her time, so she can be doing more valuable things. So that to me is a big win for how you can use AI, at least on small marketing teams anyway. But all right, so hey, let's segue to a section, a fun segment We don't have a good name for it. We call it a bite break. We call it something else. I don't know yet. But I'm going to share my screen, and we have a little bit of copy here. And let's see here. Click the share button. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. You're going to read the copy, and then you have to say, is it AI or is it Leah? So, in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving digital world, one question remains: how can we as individuals and organizations alike work smarter, not harder? The answer is clear. Embrace AI. From boosting efficiency to unlocking creativity, M-. The possibilities are endless. Is it the future? Without a doubt.
AI, too many M dashes to be Leah. And
In today's ever-evolving digital world, that's a giveaway, and the M dashes, of course.
Oh, unless Leah's in on this, right? So she knows that it's a competition and she's trying to trick us, and she primed us earlier by telling, see, now I don't know because Leah's a smart
Plan all
cookie.
along.
Yeah,
I do love an M dash as well. I have a lot to say about the M dash and what ChatGPT has done to it. Justice for the M dash, for starters. But I can't say. Can't tell you.
Instinctively, I would say AI, but knowing Leah and so forth, and I'm going Leah. I think she's Prentice.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm going to say AI. I don't know the answer, but, I think it's AI.
Well, I guess, is Leah able to try to trick us in where she's acting like AI? Because I feel like I don't know what I'm judging here.
I know. I do feel like it could be a trick. I feel like it's a trick question.
Okay, well, if Leah set this up, then it is what it is. We just have to roll with it.
ChatGPT wrote the one that ChatGPT wrote. Not
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. All right, I'm going ChatGPT.
All right. And then you're going to have to give us the answer here in a second. The other one was, if you ask the bots, AI-fication is the answer to everything. Optimize, streamline, supercharge, automate every workflow, from quarterly reports to brushing your teeth. It's a lot out of nowhere, and it changed everything. The secret is knowing how to use AI to give you more time to be human.
The teeth bit makes me think Leah. Actually, if I'm just going to say Leah every time, I've got a 50% chance. Right, across this.
I'll go Leah on this too, just because the AI-fication.
Yeah.
It'll take those risks every once in a while, but it just doesn't have enough of the typical signatures.
Yeah.
I mean, the scary thing that Leah could be doing to us is uploading a bunch of her content into her writing into a project, and then say, use my style.
It could never be me, Mike. It could never achieve these great heights. It doesn't understand the Leah-isms. It couldn't do that.
But I think this one is Leah all the way. So Leah, you got to tell us.
You are correct. That first one, that's ChatGPT with all of its tells, and that one is me. Yeah. Thank you for pointing out brushing your teeth. I did put that in there, Tommy, as a little Leah-ism. I thought that might help.
It did. And the AIfication, I agree with Brent. AI would never have the wherewithal to write that. Yeah. And it doesn't have teeth, right? So
I feel so seen, guys. Thanks for knowing me.
Yeah, the AIfication was the tell for me. That was you. So, but awesome. All right. Well, that is a wrap for our first episode of B-Roll. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow, share it with a friend, leave a review, drop a comment, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make scroll-stopping videos in seconds. No editing skills, no creative team. Biteable AI scripts, storyboards, and builds your videos for you. Add voices, avatars like me, and more. It's all one click away. Instant videos. Limitless scale.